Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's training on how to create more time in your day. So what we are going to talk about today is I want to share 5 most common reasons as to why people struggle with finding more time or creating more time in their day. And then I want to share with you 10 practical tips that you can implement, see which ones work for you, experiment with all of them, see which ones, again, work for you, and really use them to create that time that we all lack in our day. Because I have been in a situation many times where I was like, oh, I wish there was just a few more hours in a day so that I am able to, achieve whatever I want to achieve and whatever I set for myself. But then I learned that that's not really true, because what we often, or actually the situation we would then be in would be that we would feel also those extra hours with all those tasks that are already on our schedule right now, plus even more, right? And then we would again be in the same situation. So essentially, it isn't about how many hours we have, but how do we really use these hours in the most effective way? All right, so let's think about why do you struggle with not having enough time? Now, this is really one of the topics that I coach my clients on very, very often. And if I can put in a nutshell some of the main ones, these would be the main 5 reasons. Of course, there are many, many more. And with that in mind, actually, comment below some of those reasons why you struggle with not having enough time. Let's think about that. So these are the ones that I see most commonly. So the first one is thinking I'm not in control over my schedule, right? Because when you think I'm not in control over my schedule, you act in a way as if you're not in control over your schedule, which obviously results in you not being in control over your schedule, right? So we really, again, initially and firstly and foremost, want to be aware of what are our thoughts and beliefs, because they always create our results, all right? The second one is not having clear goals, right? So people are not, or you might not be completely clear as to where you're headed to. What is the goal that you're working towards, right? And if you aren't sure as to where you're headed to, you're going to be confused. You're going to be engaging with all sorts of different tasks that you normally shouldn't be maybe engaging with, right? And therefore, you would be spending time on those that are not helping you or not, how can I say, adding onto your development in any area. The next one is not being good with prioritizing. A lot of us might not be really good with this, right? You might think that everything is urgent, everything is important, when we know that's not the truth, right? So I really want you to challenge yourself to look objectively at the tasks in front of you and really ask yourself, is this really important and urgent? Like, is it really important and urgent? Is it? The next one, people pleasing, right? Or essentially not being able or not saying no. It's not about not being able. We're all able to say no, but you're just not saying no. You're not saying no enough, right? Because you might be afraid that you're going to be rejected, or that people are going to think this or that, or that you aren't going to be a part of certain environments or circles anymore, right? So we tend to take on different tasks that don't feel good, that fill up your time just so that somebody else is happy. And when you think about it, maybe they are even happy, but you are not. All right. And that has a huge, huge impact on your overall well-being as well as results. And the last one here that I put was lack of self-awareness and reflection. And what I mean by that is that I see a lot of individuals going through their days, their weeks, their months, or even their years without taking time to reflect on what is going on, reflect on how they've been spending their time. Think about what have you been doing, or what am I doing at the moment that's working? What am I doing that's not working? What can I do more of? What can I do less of? What can I stop doing? What can I start doing instead of that, right? So there are a lot of things that we can reflect on and become aware of, because if we don't do that, we will not be able to improve, right? Reflection is really one of the keys to your self-improvement and for you becoming better as a person and also in what you do. So all that and more, again, feel free to comment below what or why do you struggle with not having enough time. So all of that leads to feeling stressed, feeling overwhelmed, feeling frustrated, right? Which leads to, again, you not being focused enough, not producing desired results, which again brings back to feeling stressed and overwhelmed. So you kind of find yourself to be in some kind of a circle that you cannot go out of, right? Because then when you don't see your desired results, you think that the solution is in doing more, adding more to your schedule, which again then feels overwhelming, right? So it's a never-ending circle. It just feels heavy. It just feels heavy as I'm talking about it, right? Now, think about how heavy that really feels when you are in that circle. Okay, so let's think about 10 practical examples of what you can do to improve that. How can you create more time? Now, before we deep dive into that, what I really, really, really want to emphasize on here is protecting your time and your energy as well, right, is your responsibility. Nobody is in charge of your time. Nobody can make you do something. It is fully and only up to you as to how you decide to spend your time and energy. It's always like that, all right? Even when it feels like somebody is forcing you or pushing you, nobody can make you, like physically make you do it, right? It still has to be your decision. So it's so important that we really understand that we have this responsibility, because when you take responsibility, that's what makes you powerful, right? Because it's fully within your control. So this is the first thought and belief that I really want you to sit with and really feel, but like really feel it in your body. Like, yes, my time is mine. All right. Okay, and as I mentioned before, these 10 practical tips, they're not necessarily something that you're now going to go and immediately implement all of it and see results right like tomorrow. For some you might, okay, but the idea here is that you really experiment with these tips, see what's working for you, do more of that. What's not working, you want to obviously stop doing that or adjust it in a way, but there is no one size fits all. These are just some that, again, pick some of those. Maybe you're doing some of those already, but even if you are doing them, you might want to ask yourself, especially if it doesn't feel good and if you keep not having enough time, how can you improve that? All right. So let's start with the first one. So the most obvious one really is plan for your weeks and days, right? So the process that I teach my clients that we coach on is that every, let's say, Sunday or every Friday or every Monday, whatever works for you, you want to sit down and you want to think about, all right, so where do I want to be at the end of the next week? Okay, now before we even start doing that, actually, let me go backwards a bit, is that we reflect on the current week. So we are thinking what's working, what's not working, what can I do differently? And based on that, we set goals for the upcoming week. All right. Now, we also set those goals for the upcoming week, keeping in mind the big picture. And big picture for you might mean your monthly goal or your quarterly goal or your yearly goal, right? And then we want to break it down. So let's take, for example, if you're thinking about a quarterly goal, so if you have a very clear goal for, let's say, Q2, right? That's upcoming now, you want to ask yourself, all right, so in order for me to achieve my Q2 goal, what do I need to achieve on a monthly basis? Then you want to break it further down. In order for me to achieve my monthly goal, what do I need to achieve on a weekly basis? And then you want to break it even further down as to, in order for me to achieve my weekly goal, what do I need to be doing every single day? And here you go. Here you go, your daily to-do list. Okay? Which will also, of course, help with prioritizing, because anything that doesn't support your daily, weekly, monthly goal to get your quarterly should not be there. As simple as that, right? So it's going to be also easier to say no. Okay, so this is the first one. So if you haven't been doing planning, make sure to start doing that. Also, if you want to see how do we do it in my coaching program, you can let me know and I will send you the worksheet that we use. The next one here that I have, for some reason, 2 of them, but the first one would be use your most productive hours. This is also a very obvious one, and yet I see a lot of individuals skip on it, right? So that is, for example, for me, my productive hours are early in the morning. So what I make sure is that I wake up early, just because I also want to wake up early, right? And I use the first few hours of every day doing the tasks that are maybe the most demanding or require most of my focus or require most of my time. I want to spend those hours doing those kind of most the difficult tasks, because then also as I go throughout my day, I kind of dealt with all those difficult tasks already. I have created such a huge win for myself that the rest of the day is just kind of amazing. It's flowing, right? So I will always try to plan in a day that evening I will not be doing this kind of tasks that require a lot of my energy and focus, right? Because evenings I am not as productive. And that's okay. I don't have to be, right? So the same is for you. Like if that's morning or if that's evening or if that's afternoon, whatever it is, think about what it is and schedule to do those most difficult tasks that will be, it will be so much easier for you to deal with those. All right. The next one I put here is say no without justifying yourself. And what I mean by this is that a lot of time we are like, you know, we're talking to someone and they say something or they would like us to do something. And then we're like, no, because, and then we have the whole story with all sorts of reason and kind of justifications. And we feel guilty. And then they feel that we feel guilty. And then they push us a bit more. And then in the end, we are not a no, but a yes. Right? Does this sound familiar? Right? So no is a no. There is no need for you to justify yourself. Of course, it's not that you're going to be rude and be like, no, okay? But you're going to be like, oh, thank you, but at the moment I cannot. Or thank you, but I'm not interested. Or no, at the moment is a no. I might come back to you later. Or anything along those lines. Of course, being nice and respectful, but still at the same time being firm, right? Being firm and staying true to your word or staying, the kind of sticking to your word doesn't mean you're rude, right? At the end of the day, one of the ways I also like to look at this saying no is that if I tell you yes, but actually mean no, I'm not being fair towards yourself, right? I'm actually being unfair and I'm lying to you, right? Because if I say yes again and I mean no, I'm lying to you, right? So I would rather stay true to myself and my values and being honest with you, right, than kind of being yes but actually mean no. Okay, you can always come back to that later, right? No now does not necessarily mean no tomorrow. Okay, but again, you need to see, is it a priority right now? The next one is work in blocks. Okay, so this is what I mean here. This actually is an exercise that I give to some of my clients. It's a bit, tiring at the beginning, but it brings a lot of reward. And that is from, let's say, tomorrow, note down everything you do in your day, right? Like in the blocks. So let's say if you start working at 8, you might want to write something like from 8 to 9, I did this, from 9 to 10, I did that, from 10 to 11, I did whatever, blah, blah, blah. So the whole, the same procedure, so to say, for the whole day, because that is going to give you huge insight as to how you're actually spending your time. All right. A lot of time we think, oh, we are super busy and there is no time. But then if I dig deeper on coaching my clients, we would realize there is a bunch of time, right? Because a lot of times you spend also on certain small things, which again, I'm not saying we should become robots and use every single second of our day in the most effective way. I mean, I don't know anyone who does that, right? But let's see how we can find more time, create more time, because that is obviously also the topic of our conversation today, okay? And then you might want to think about, so for example, let's say that you need to search for something on LinkedIn, for example. Instead of being, let me just search for that for the whole morning, let's be more specific and work in blocks. So for example, you're going to say to yourself, from 9 to 10, I'm going to go on LinkedIn, and this is what I want to achieve by the end of that hour. If by the end of that hour, you're not where you want it to be, you might want to consider, okay, so why am I not where I want it to be? What can I improve to be there in the next, let's say, half an hour, right? And you can do same, for example, for your emails. If you want to, let's say you come to work first thing in the morning and you want to spend the first 1 hour reviewing your emails, then the next 1 hour doing your meetings, then the next 1 hour, I don't know, calling your clients, then the next 1 hour, right? So break your day down. Sometimes Okay, I'm giving you here a bunch of ideas. Sometimes it's hard to do that on an hourly basis because it might be too rigid, but then you can think about, all right, so how can I break it down into morning block, afternoon block, right? See again what works for you depending on what work you do. That's also very important to remember. Block your time in calendar, right? So this is me time. So one of the clients that I'm working with, right, one of the huge struggles for her is that a lot of her colleagues put different things in her calendar, right? So because they have obviously access to her calendar. So what we were coaching on and what we came up with was that every, let's say a week, let's say today, she blocks me time in her calendar for the following 2 weeks. So you might want to consider doing something similar like that for yourself as well, all right? And me time in your calendar does not necessarily need to be only for your private things. It can be, let's say, if there is some certain work that requires a lot of focus of yours, you can just block 2 hours, let's say on Tuesday afternoon, that you're on don't disturb mode, where you're focusing on that, which requires a lot of your focus and attention. The next one, track your time. This is actually what we covered when I was talking about working in blocks. A really, really, really good exercise. And if you decide to do it, I would suggest that you follow it for, let's say, at least a week, right? So don't do it one day and now I know where my time goes, but do it for a few more days so that you really get a better insight as to how you're spending your time and how can you spend it in a more effective way. Next one, delegate and outsource, right? The super, it's in front of us, it's here. It's such a clear one to do, and yet a lot of people don't do it. So who can do certain things instead of you? That doesn't mean that you're going to be completely out of the picture and you will not know what is going on anymore. No, this means you're delegating and outsourcing certain responsibilities while at the same time overseeing them, right? But bunch of responsibilities, I can imagine you don't necessarily need to be hands-on. So who can do it, with you? Who can support you with that? And normally your colleagues are happy to support you, right? They want to take more responsibility normally, right? Especially if you, let's say, manage a team. Delegating and outsourcing is a beautiful way to show to your team members that you trust them, that you know that they can do the work, while having you at the same time be there and support them throughout the way. Remove distractions. So your phone, I don't know, whatever distracts you, remove it. Just like physically move it. Remove it out. Right? Like literally, I would sometimes just leave my phone in front of my office or outside of my office. It would not go with me. It would be physically away. This is the best way. Just physically remove it, or remove yourself from distracting environments. Group your tasks, right? So this is a great way also to be more effective with time, rather than jumping from one type of a task to the next one, then to the next, to another group of the task, then again, because this requires a lot of your focus. Every time we switch from one thing to another, we need some seconds to kind of regroup our thoughts and focus on where we are at. Then we move to another one, then we have to do the same. So imagine every time we move from one another, we are losing at the end of the day probably quite some time. I don't know, my math has never been my strength, so I don't know how much exactly, but there is a lot of studies that's been done on that, right? That really suggest how every time we focus on something else, we need some time to kind of get into it. Okay, so think, how can you do similar tasks together, then move to a similar set of tasks, then to next one, and next one. And lastly, but not like equally important to all of the other ones, is review your expectations. How clear, I actually wrote a post about this the other day, is that how clear are you on your expectations of yourself and also others for that matter, right? What are those expectations? Be very specific. Don't be like, oh, I wish this or I wish that, but like really sit down and answer these questions for yourself, right? What are your expectations? Like specifically, what are those and how realistic are they? How realistic are they for your situation at the moment and for your context at the moment? Really get curious about that, because a lot of times when we feel stressed and overwhelmed, this comes from us having certain expectations, some expectations that we set for yourself. And this isn't to say that your expectations should be low or non-existing even, right? No, not at all, right? Like we all should have like ambitious and great expectations, of course. However, even if those expectations are high and ambitious, they should still feel good, right? But if your expectations make you feel like genuinely bad, I would stop there and dive deeper to understand what is happening over there, right? And how can you adjust them? And how can you adjust them, especially to where you're currently at in your life, right? Or in your career, so that they support your growth rather than kind of make you feel as if you're never good enough. All right. But again, not good enough from this kind of bad point of view. It's very hard to explain that in the words, but I think you know what I mean, right? Like you just feel that something isn't right. Okay. And when something feels like it isn't right, that means that something isn't right. That's this instinct that we have, our intuition, that we really shouldn't ignore. All right. Okay, so that's that. These are the 10 practical tips. Let me know below, have you been using any of these, or which ones have you been using? How has it been going for you? And if you haven't been using any of these or some of these, what others can you now add and start working on and using a bit more? If you have any questions, as always, feel free to either comment below or message me, and I will be happy to go in depth, even deeper with you in any of these or any questions you may have when it comes to your time management. Okay, now, if you want to bring this work further, and if you're ready to up-level your career, if you're ready to work on this topic and any other career-related topic, here is what I want to offer to you. So there are 2 ways to work with me. The first one is my signature career kickoff coaching program. So this is a customized 3-month one-to-one coaching program where it's you and me working together towards a certain career goal that you set for yourself. So we have 12 sessions together, and every session is a session that's going to bring you closer to wherever you wish to be by the end of our 3 months coaching together. So this is the first one. If you have any questions, if you want to know more, what we are going to do is we are going to organize a free consult call. It's a 60-minute chat where we're going to talk about where you're currently at, where you wish to be, and then we're going to see how would working together look like. The second part, which is a special April offer. So this is a special offer that I will be offering once per quarter, most probably from now on. But let's focus on April for now. It's a career intensive. So this is a session where we're going to spend 75 minutes together, again, one-on-one, working on any career topic of your choice. So I see now it's written not on a topic of your choice, but on a career topic of your choice. So this is a great way for you to experience coaching, to see how would working together look like. And if you like this, and if you would like to continue, we can then switch always to the other customized 3-month program as well. And the price that you pay for career intensive will then be deducted of the overall career kickoff coaching price as well. All right. So if you have any questions on this, if you are interested in coaching, if you want to learn how would working with me look like, let me know. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to see how I can help you get there. All right. So that was that for today. Feel free to share your learnings in comments below, and I'm going to talk to you very soon again. Bye.